So I've actually had some requests in the float plane chat for the fully salinated Anthony cut.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I've never done anything like this before, but I think they want
Oh,
the pre-edited version of the script.
yeah, you should do a script read.
Do you guys want to hear
Yeah,
what the video would have been if I had not changed anything that Anthony wrote? Because
I
we
think
don't
that'd be
really
interesting.
talk about this a lot. Like, people know, I think, that as the host, I I do input some of my thoughts into the script, and I do make adjustments to what the writers initially bring to me. But I think they might not realize how much at times I might change. So yeah, okay. People want the full salt mode. Everyone's super into it. Okay, so I will be
I'm super
curious
good.
to
Let's
know.
go.
Okay, the problem is I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna straw poll it. Okay, I'm gonna straw poll it. I want to know which cut you guys like better, but I think I already know the answer because I know that as the hardcores who watch the WAN show, you guys love Anthony and anything he does is automatically magic. And that's cool because I love Anthony and I think everything he does is automatically magic. So I already know that Anthony's version is going to win. The other reason I know Anthony's version is going to win is because you guys are the hardcores who I think would like us to take a more adversarial stance on things Microsoft and Windows. But what I was doing, I just want to get this out there. What I was doing was I was trying to take some of the personal cynicism out of it and try and make it more about the news. That was the goal. So, okay, which cut is going to be the question? And we're going to have Linus cut, Anthony cut, I don't know, Snyder cut. There you go. We're a voter. Create poll. Okay. So I'm gonna drop this. I'm gonna drop this into first the float plane chat. We're gonna have you guys go first, and I'm gonna start the read. You guys ready? I'm not doing it in ASMR. That was not a big success for us. The whole ASMR video thing. It was
No.
the worst performing video in a very long time. All right, so the first frame was going to be Linus holding up a laptop simulating a Windows update with the camera tight on it. And then it's going to say when the line reads, it only seems that way, we're going to quickly lower the laptop to reveal Linus's face. So we ended up doing a slightly different version of that. It's not every day Windows gets an update. It only seems that way. But this is no ordinary update. For the first time in 6 years, we're finally getting an official look at a new operating system from Microsoft. But wait, wasn't Windows 10 supposed to be the last version of Windows? What about Windows 10X? And were we wrong about Windows 11 in our preview of the leaked ISO a week ago? Microsoft doesn't seem to know. But I know about sponsors like blank, talking points here, animated intro here. All right. When we first saw Windows 11, it looked like little more than a major interface redesign for Windows 10, but on closer inspection, there was more going on under the hood than we gave it credit for, with reports coming out that Microsoft had enhanced support for hybrid architecture designs like Intel's Lakefield and ARM's Big Little, which is about to come very relevant very soon. And that's why it's so frustrating that Microsoft didn't seem to care one bit about what their own engineers were doing under the hood and instead spent like 90% of the whole runtime just patting themselves on the back and waxing philosophical about how much work gets done on Windows. It's a given that people use Windows, guys. People get work done on Windows. We use Windows for most of our workstations. I don't care that we use Windows. I care what Windows is doing to make that experience better. And there are only a few major items that Microsoft touched on. The first and most obvious is the new visual design. They kept talking about how it should feel familiar, how it should feel like home, blah, blah, blah. TLDR, we've seen it already, save for a few details. It's a frosted glass aesthetic with multiple theme styles, rounded corners on windows, and a center-aligned taskbar, an optimization that Microsoft made clear was for touch users. The new Start menu, clearly lifted from Windows 10X, is supposedly powered by the cloud, which is shorthand for we included Bing search as usual, and is probably why it was so bloody slow when we tried it out for ourselves last week. So this is part of the editing process, as I corrected him that it only did that when we were using like software-based GPU acceleration. It was fine when we were running on a real GPU. But hey, now your recent documents will sync across devices if you're using Office 365, so there's that. There are more useful changes, of course. Snap layouts let you quickly and easily tile windows in different orientations, similar to how the Fancy Zones PowerToy works today, except significantly more user-friendly and significantly less configurable. Microsoft says that nobody else lets you do that with this many windows, and I don't know if you noticed, but Linux has had that kind of tiling for a long time. They do bring something new to the table here, though. Microsoft Windows grouped this way will group together in the taskbar and be treated like a single item. So you can switch to and from a window layout on the fly, and virtual desktops can now be customized with different wallpapers, just like you can customize your water bottle with the stickers you get for free from lttstore.com. What's more, they finally fixed the issue where windows rearrange themselves semi-randomly when monitors are disconnected, instead minimizing windows that were on the removed display and putting it all back when you reconnect. That'll make docking a laptop way less frustrating, although I'm not sure what happens if you disconnect the display, then start working with windows that were on it before. Do they get moved back when you reconnect? There's more for all-in-ones and touch displays in general, too. Touch targets are bigger now with more visual feedback, and there's a new on-screen keyboard we didn't get to try out in our test drive that looks a lot like the iOS keyboard, right down to the ability to move the cursor around by holding the spacebar. It's unclear right now whether the keyboard shows up automatically when you touch a text box, or if there will be a dedicated button for it. At least for the example they showed of a Microsoft Office comment, it dismissed the keyboard once the comment was finished, so there must be some mechanism that tells it to raise or lower. So Anthony doesn't use a touch-enabled, sorry, this is me again. Anthony doesn't use a touch-enabled Windows device on the daily, so I told him that there's already a mechanism for that, so I would expect they wouldn't remove it. So we cut that part out. But that's all boring productivity stuff. What about gaming? Well, Auto HDR is coming to Windows after debuting on the Xbox Series X, and direct storage support is baked into Windows 11 at the OS and driver level. That brings Windows more in line with traditionally Xbox features. This was something I really took exception to. I was like, Anthony, you're clearly mad, bro, because you gave Auto HDR and direct storage support 2 lines out of hundreds. Anyway, okay. That brings Windows more in line with traditionally Xbox features, and that's really about it. Yeah, Xbox Game Pass is now integrated into the Xbox app that comes with Windows, but it wasn't exactly difficult to find before, so that's why you were confused, Luke. We did get more promises...
Okay, but I still don't get it. Sorry,
hold on, let me get through it. We did get more promises of cross-platform play, as is the tradition by now, but we have no idea how many titles will support it, or if it's a system-wide thing or what. For an operating system that's supposedly considered every detail, we got practically none for how long that segment lasted. Oh, snap! At least additions to pen input looked pretty sweet, with the addition of haptic feedback to simulate the feel of different tools as you're using them. Not really a whole lot else to say about that, though, because they only showed it briefly, just like they did for screen rotation, which is much more streamlined now, with windows rotating smoothly with the display, and tiled windows in landscape mode stacking onto each other rather than arranging unpredictably, as in the past. Speaking of unpredictable, Teams is now integrated into Windows directly? When did everyone start using Teams? Am I out of touch? There's now a dedicated icon that gives you what looks like a searchable jump list of recent contacts and buttons for interacting with them. I'm not sure this is what anyone was asking for, but at least they have something akin to iMessage and FaceTime built in, so that's cool, I guess. There was a brief mention about dictation and voice commands, like they've been doing for decades now, so presumably that's also received an upgrade to compete with Siri on macOS. macOS. They made a big deal about how this all works on any platform, like that was a dig at Apple or something. In fact, they made a lot of digs at Apple throughout the event, from lines like, I don't want to buy a tablet and a laptop, to saying, what's Intel doing right now with their 11th gen, or what Intel's doing right now with their 11th gen processor is just awesome, after calling out AMD and Qualcomm as equal partners. It's more than a little obvious, and they made a lot of these not so subtle jabs throughout the presentation. Even the Windows 11 page on their website has this kind of thing in place of genuinely useful information in the FAQ section. I thought he was pretty mad there. Another thing they spent a long time talking about, The Windows Store, now with the ability to order hardware, show movies, TV shows, and other content regardless of the streaming service, and integration with the Amazon App Store. You can run Android apps directly in Windows. No word on whether sideloading is possible or if you're stuck with the Amazon Store, but presumably the hope is that if enough people run Android apps on Windows, they'll eventually demand UWP versions be available in the Windows Store, similar to BlackBerry's hopes before their platform died. Windows isn't in any danger of dying right now, but Microsoft's App Store is sorely underutilized, and they blew a lot of wind about how it's super easy with industry-leading rev share and support for outside payment processors so they don't get a cut. It really felt like they came just short of getting on their knees and begging. They also practically begged us to care about their new widgets panel, which they described as a beautiful sheet of glass powered by AI. In effect, this is the same thing as the news and interest panel Microsoft added to Windows 10 in another update, but with additional features. As the name suggests, it does support widgets for the first time since Windows 7, even if they were called gadgets back then, and it can be brought up or dismissed quickly by swiping in from the left edge of the screen on a touchscreen or clicking the icon for it in the taskbar. When will Windows 11 be available? Microsoft didn't tell us, instead saying on the FAQ that it should be available on new PCs starting late this year, while the update for Windows 10 users will start rolling out in early 2022. Also, no word on pricing. According to the FAQ, it's a free update for Windows 10 users with no set expiry date, but we have no idea what, if anything, it will cost at retail for PC builders. Speaking of PC builders, get subscribed because we're working on an epic-length video that will be the last build guide you'll ever need. Another thing Microsoft didn't tell us and buried in the FAQ, system requirements. As we've already seen, Windows 11 requires Secure Boot and TPM 2.0 to function as a security measure, and this may chafe some users. It also needs 2 or more cores, 4 gigs of RAM, 64 gigs of storage, and a DirectX 12 compatible GPU. Significantly more all around than Windows 10. There's a health check tool you can download to check compatibility, but apparently our workstations aren't compatible? Why not? I don't know. Go buy a new PC. Microsoft, please, at least tell me. Is it the TPM thing? It's probably the TPM thing. What's more troubling, however, is this note that Windows 11 Home Edition requires an internet connection and a Microsoft account to complete first-time setup, and you get fewer features for using one. Desktop wallpaper is no longer synced with your Microsoft account between devices, and the timeline feature has been removed. There's more. The taskbar is now locked to the bottom of the screen. The start menu no longer has support for folders or groups. Live tiles are gone, and the menu itself can't be resized. Tablet mode is gone and replaced with the new touch inputs, and Cortana mercifully won't bug you during the first time setup, nor take up unnecessary space on the taskbar by default. It is so frustrating digging this kind of thing up because these changes normally would have been touched on in past Windows reveals. It's unclear whether Microsoft intentionally leaked Windows 11 before the big reveal today. It was obviously from an earlier point in production than we were shown, but it did get a lot of eyes looking their way. In fact, the first thing that tipped anyone off was that Windows 10 now has an end-of-life date, which is October 14th, 2025, putting Windows 10's service life at just over 10 years, a few months short of Windows 7's. Was it a good operating system? Well, I don't think it'll be remembered as fondly as Windows 7 was, but it was better than the mess that was Windows 8. Here's hoping Windows 11 continues in a positive direction when it finally reaches our PCs. So there you go. That's what ultimately changed compared to the video that we uploaded. That was the Anthony cut.
Do you think that build guide's going to be the Windows 10 of build guides?
It could very well be. It could very well be. There will be new CPU. This is the last
one you're ever going to need.
There will be new CPU sockets. Okay, there will be new interfaces. But this will be the last one you will need. We're expecting it to be over an hour long. Like, this is going to be everything you need to know. That's kind of the idea behind it.
Cool.
So I'm going to open up the voting. First, we're going to have a look at the results from Floatplane. Here we go. We have 79% of people preferring the salty Anthony cut, with 11% of people preferring the desalinated Linus cut, and 9% of people wishing that Zack Snyder had stepped in. That never actually happened, so I don't know why you guys are voting for that.
I do wish Snyder did cut in. Yeah, I'm in that group.
Yep. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to let Twitch vote, and I'm going to go ahead and drop this in the YouTube chat as well. So let's let the masses have their say now.
I think the problem here is that I think the anger is coming from the event and not as much the operating system.
That was... Yes.
and that's an issue in my opinion. And that's like, yeah, okay. So the event's at a weird time. I think probably a disproportionate amount of the unhappiness and the saltiness is probably coming from that. And then also it wasn't very informative. Yes, for sure.
Now, to be clear, Anthony has no problem attending events and no problem getting up early. He's the one who gets up early to launch every embargoed GPU review we do, for example. He's a good sport. He's a great guy in general. No complaints there. But like anyone who has to do, he doesn't like his time wasted, right?
Yeah, and the event wasn't great.
Like, Anthony doesn't mind spending his time. He doesn't like to spend it for nothing. And I don't blame him. In fact, that's something that I feel has contributed to me feeling more jaded and cynical over the years, because it's become this pattern where you get pulled in, you get an inordinate amount of your time taken up by just useless fluff, when all you really want to do is work on the tech and make videos, do your job, you know?
For sure. And I totally get it. And I would probably have felt the exact same way. And if I was in Anthony's shoes, I probably would have written a super salty document and been all mad.
And I would have changed it.
Yes. And I think one of the problems with this whole thing is the reality of it is I didn't watch the event.
Yep. So it's almost an inside joke at a certain point.
Yeah. Why would I watch the event? You guys watch the event.
Yep.
I'm gonna watch you guys. I did watch you guys. Like I don't care about the event. I don't want to watch the event. I don't want them to try to sell me something that you guys can then figure out all the actual important bits of and then tell me, which sounds far more productive to me, because I also don't want to waste my time for the exact reason
100%.
that you guys are upset. So you guys did a great job, because the video seemed good. I didn't feel like I was wasting my time. And that's why I'm actually somewhat excited about it.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's another operating step in the operating system step in the 2020s, right? Like, it's not blowing my socks off.
Yes.
But I think it looks pretty good. I think some of the improvements are really sensible. I think a lot of the improvements to the touch stuff, even though that's not something that's not a way that I engage with Windows very often. I think those are very smart and in the right direction. Things seem pretty all right.
Samurai Warrior over on Floatplane says, I feel like reveals for many of these big companies have simply become fluff/hype pieces to only interest us and not let us know what's really going on. So that's a fair criticism. And that's a big part of the reason that I think, like Luke was saying, people don't feel like watching them, and they want to wait for someone like us to go through, watch it for them, just take out all the complete garbage, add in the stuff that wasn't in there, and put it together for them in 10 minutes instead of 90 minutes.
I used to get so hyped about watching stuff like E3 as well.
Yeah.
I don't watch it anymore for the exact same reason.
And a big part of the reason is that I think that as part of this trend towards companies taking control of the narrative around their own products and services, is that they have lost track of what was good about launch and hype events. Like, remember how furious you were back, I think it was the 980 launch, I want to say, when NVIDIA dragged you out to Timbuktu nowhere somewhere.
Is this when I... Oh, yeah, so that we were far away from our thing? Oh.
Yes, yeah. They dragged you out to the middle of nowhere, didn't give you the information that you needed, so you were basically just a chair warmer in the audience so that they could do their live stream and reveal all the information. And you were kind of sitting there going, why am I even here? Why didn't I just watch this, summarize it from the comfort of my Cheetos stained chair at home, and then tell the peeps about it and get a good night's sleep instead of sitting on a plane because I'm 6'2" or however tall you are.
3, yeah. So just for some context there, they put us up in a hotel and it was all nice and stuff, but I don't care about any of that. And then the event was really far away from the hotel, which is where all our stuff is, and we have like some laptops and cameras. Like we brought what we could to the event. They have a pre-meeting below the stage, like downstairs below the stage at the event. So everything's going upstairs. We can hear people sitting down in their seats while we're having our pre-meeting, which is where they tell us like 80% of what they say on the stage. but they don't give the actual important information. And then when they're on the stage, they give all the important information, and then they immediately close down the event and are like, "Okay, it's after party time. We're closing the basement. The upstairs is for this party thing, and you can't go back to the hotel yet." So there's nowhere for us to work. I can't film this thing. I made like a handshake agreement with the workers that were tearing down all the stuff that was in the basement to let us stand in the corner and film our video. And Brandon and I just filmed our video there. And then if I remember correctly, Brandon just like edited it on like a pile, like the laptop was just sitting on like a pile of folded tables. And he was sitting on like his backpack or something. And that's where he had to edit the video. And then I don't remember how we uploaded it, but it was such a nightmare. And it sucked. And that made me salty, but you have to, yeah.
You gotta
you guys don't care because you weren't there. So yeah.
And in a way, it's kind of better for me to not, because I didn't sit through the event. So I was able to come at it with totally fresh eyes, seeing the condensed version. That's a big part of what works so well about our current workflow for doing these events is one or usually 2 or 3 people from the writing team are watching. They're live tweeting, they're making notes for the various channels. I mean, Apple events these days, we have to have at least 3 people watching them because Riley has to know what's going on for TechLinked. He's going to have his own spin on it. Usually Anthony is going to be covering it on the LTT side of things. He's going to have his own spin on it. And then now Jonathan Horst, from MAC Address is going to have to watch it for his more, Apple-oriented spin on it, and there's really no way around it. So it's amazing how much it costs me in like labor hours every time Apple hosts an event. Anyway, that's not the point. The point is, during the script review process, which is me for LTT, and then actually there isn't one for TechLinked or for MAC Address. Actually, I think James works with Horst on MAC Address, so I shouldn't have said there's no script review. But for me, I will not have watched it, and I'll be going in kind of wide-eyed and excited with this super condensed, like from concentrate Apple event, and it really gives a kind of a fun dynamic to the way that we kind of go through and edit the script, and kind of have this back and forth between someone that kind of had to sit there hearing Apple go on and on about what color their stupid keyboard is this year, and then someone who gets to gloss over that and focus on the really cool stuff. Like, the neat, MagSafe connector for the iMac or whatever.
Yeah.
All right, we've got the final numbers. We've got the final numbers for the poll. Here it is. You guys you've come at me. 55% prefer the Anthony cut, and I got only 35%. But like I told you guys, that's exactly what I expected to happen. But I'm sure Anthony is going to feel validated in his saltiness for sure.